In a mere 50 days, President Donald Trump has dramatically reshaped the landscape of international relations, raising concerns about the stability of an order that the United States took decades to establish. His swift and often unpredictable maneuvers have left many analysts questioning the resilience of a global system built on alliances and mutual respect. As David E. Sanger, a seasoned political journalist, astutely observes in his recent analysis for the New York Times, Trump's actions signal a revolutionary shift in American foreign policy that could have far-reaching implications. One of the most significant changes under Trump's administration has been the United States' abrupt pivot in the Ukraine conflict. Previously seen as a supporter of Ukraine's sovereignty against Russian aggression, the current administration has begun siding with Russia and North Korea in a surprising departure from traditional U.S. foreign policy. The decision to vote against a United Nations resolution that condemned Moscow as the aggressor has alarmed allies who have long depended on U.S. leadership in global affairs. This shift, characterized by a lack of strategic rationale, has been described as a devastating blow to the democratic aspirations of nations under threat. Trump's administration has not only abandoned Ukraine but has also proposed controversial territorial claims, including suggestions regarding control over the Panama Canal, Greenland, Gaza, and even Canada. Such assertions have been met with widespread disbelief and criticism as they challenge the foundational principles of international law and respect for sovereign borders. His rhetoric, which has described the U.S.-Canada border as an artificial line of separation, raises unsettling questions about the future of bilateral relations with one of America's closest allies. The implications of these actions extend beyond mere political posturing. Trump's decision to cut off military aid to Ukraine, coupled with the denial of access to vital intelligence, has left the country vulnerable in the face of Russian aggression. This has sparked fears among defense analysts that a weakened Ukraine could embolden other authoritarian regimes, thereby undermining global security. Sanger notes that Trump's antagonistic approach towards allies and his willingness to engage with adversaries reflect a broader trend of isolationism that could reshape the balance of power. As the international community grapples with these developments, the response from traditional allies has been mixed. Some have expressed shock and disappointment, while others are re-evaluating their own security strategies in light of an unpredictable U.S. administration. The European Union, for instance, is faced with existential questions about its collective defense posture, particularly in the context of NATO's relevance. In the coming months, the full impact of Trump's foreign policy decisions will likely continue to unfold, with potential consequences for global trade, security alliances, and international norms. Analysts are closely watching how these actions will affect America's standing on the world stage, as well as the responses from nations feeling threatened by a declining U.S. commitment to the post-World War II order. In conclusion, as Trump's presidency progresses, the world is witnessing a pivotal moment in international relations. His administration's departure from established norms and alliances raises significant questions about the future of global governance. The next steps taken by both the U.S. and its allies will be crucial in determining whether this new approach marks a temporary shift or a long-term transformation in how America engages with the world. The stakes are high, and the outcome could redefine the geopolitical landscape for years to come. On March 12, 2025, the international community witnessed a significant turning point in the ongoing saga surrounding former Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte, known for his controversial war on drugs that has drawn widespread global condemnation. The International Criminal Court (ICC) has officially taken custody of Duterte in connection with a case concerning crimes against humanity. This arrest marks a historic moment not just for the Philippines but also for the ICC, as it seeks to hold leaders accountable for their actions during their tenure. Duterte's presidency, which began in 2016, was characterized by a brutal crackdown on illegal drugs, resulting in thousands of deaths. Human rights organizations and various governments have accused him of overseeing extrajudicial killings in an attempt to eradicate drug-related crime. The toll of his war on drugs has led to calls for accountability both within the Philippines and from the international community. As the ICC's chief prosecutor Karim Khan stated, this is a moment of accountability for the victims of grave crimes. The ICC will not stand idly by while such atrocities are committed. The decision to arrest Duterte is particularly noteworthy given his previous efforts to evade scrutiny from international bodies. He famously withdrew the Philippines from the ICC in 2019, asserting that the court was biased against him. However, the ICC's jurisdiction remains intact for crimes committed during the time when the Philippines was a member, allowing it to pursue cases against Duterte. The implications of this arrest are profound. Legal experts suggest that it could set a precedent for holding leaders accountable in a region where impunity has often prevailed. This is a watershed moment for international law and human rights, remarked Dr. Maria Santos, a legal scholar specializing in international human rights. It sends a clear message that leaders cannot act with impunity and that the international community will act when national courts fail to uphold justice. In the Philippines, reactions to Duterte's arrest have been mixed. While human rights advocates celebrate the ICC's actions as a victory for justice, Duterte's supporters view it as an affront to Philippine sovereignty. Many believe that his drug war, despite its brutality, was a necessary response to a national crisis. Duterte was elected to do a job and he did it the way he saw fit, argued Juan de la Cruz, a supporter who expressed his disdain for the ICC's intervention. This is just another form of external interference in our affairs. As the legal proceedings unfold, the international community will be closely monitoring the developments. The case against Duterte may take years to resolve, but it will undoubtedly continue to spark debate about the balance between national sovereignty and international accountability. The outcome could influence future leaders in the region and beyond, as it challenges the long-standing notion that political leaders can act without consequence. Looking ahead, the implications of this arrest extend beyond Duterte himself. It raises critical questions about the power dynamics between nations and international entities, the efficacy of international law, and the ongoing struggle for human rights in the face of oppressive regimes. As the world watches, the ICC's actions may serve as a crucial litmus test for the future of justice and accountability in global governance. The case of Rodrigo Duterte may very well be a turning point in the ongoing fight against impunity for those in power. In a significant escalation of trade tensions, the European Union has responded robustly to the recent implementation of steel and aluminum tariffs by the United States. As of March 12, 2025, these tariffs have taken effect, igniting a wave of retaliatory measures from the EU, which has long viewed these tariffs as a threat to its economic interests. The EU's response not only underscores its commitment to protecting its industries but also highlights the potential for further escalation in a global trade landscape already fraught with uncertainty. The U.S. tariffs, initially instated under the pretext of national security concerns, have faced widespread criticism from European leaders. As part of its countermeasures, the EU announced a series of tariffs targeting iconic American goods, including whiskey and motorcycles. Margrethe Vestager, the European Commissioner for Competition, stated, "The EU will not sit idly by while American policies damage our economy and our workers." This assertive stance indicates a willingness to engage in a protracted trade conflict which could have far-reaching implications for both economies. The imposition of these tariffs is part of a broader strategy by the Biden administration to bolster domestic manufacturing and address long-standing trade imbalances. However, experts warn that such measures may have unintended consequences. According to a recent analysis by the Peterson Institute for International Economics, the tariffs could lead to increased costs for American consumers and businesses, potentially stifling the very economic growth they aim to promote. The report noted, while the intention is to protect American jobs, the reality is that tariffs often result in higher prices and retaliatory actions that can harm exports. As tensions simmer, former President Donald Trump has also re-entered the trade conversation, using the occasion of the St. Patrick's Day event to voice strong opinions about trade relations with Ireland. His remarks come amidst a backdrop of ongoing negotiations and discussions about trade agreements that could reshape existing economic frameworks. Trump emphasized the importance of fair trade practices, stating, "We must ensure that our partners, including Ireland, respect the rules to maintain a level playing field." His comments reflect a continued focus on America's trade policies, which have the potential to influence bilateral relationships significantly. The landscape of international trade is evolving rapidly, with tariffs becoming a central theme in diplomatic dialogues. The EU's firm stance against U.S. tariffs, coupled with Trump's renewed rhetoric, illustrates a pivotal moment in trade relations. As both sides brace for potential escalation, the impacts of these tariffs will likely reverberate through global markets, affecting everything from supply chains to consumer prices. Looking ahead, the situation remains fluid. Analysts suggest that ongoing negotiations and diplomatic efforts may lead to a re-evaluation of these tariffs, but with both sides entrenched in their positions, a resolution may take time. The coming months will be critical as the EU and the US navigate this complex landscape, and the outcomes will undoubtedly shape international trade policies for years to come. As the world watches closely, the implications of these decisions extend beyond borders, influencing global economic stability and cooperation in an increasingly interconnected marketplace. In a rapidly evolving global economic landscape, the proposed Mar-a-Lago Accord has emerged as a focal point of debate among economists and policymakers. This initiative, allegedly inspired by discussions led by Stephen Miron, the nominee for chair of the Council of Economic Advisers, suggests a radical shift in how the United States interacts with its trading partners regarding the dollar's value and the financing of its government. However, as experts Stephen Kamin and Mark Sobel argue, this plan may hold more risks than rewards, raising questions about its viability and potential consequences for the U.S. economy and the global financial system. The essence of the Mar-a-Lago Accord revolves around a collaborative effort to weaken the U.S. dollar, which proponents claim is currently overvalued. They argue that this overvaluation has hampered American export competitiveness, contributed to persistent trade deficits, and led to the decline of U.S. manufacturing. The proposed solution involves a coordinated intervention in foreign exchange markets by the U.S. and its trading partners, alongside commitments to provide low-cost long-term financing to the U.S. government. In a rather controversial twist, compliance with these measures would reportedly be enforced through the threat of higher tariffs or the removal of U.S. security guarantees. What raises eyebrows is the lack of official endorsement from the Trump administration, yet the implications of Miron's paper and remarks from Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent have fueled speculation on Wall Street. However, Kamin and Sobel caution that the accord could destabilize the dollar's long-standing position as the dominant global currency. They argue that rather than being detrimental, the dollar's global role is a net positive for the U.S., facilitating international business, lowering capital costs, and enhancing geopolitical influence. The authors emphasize that many of the trade deficits that the accord aims to address are symptomatic of a robust economy and are not inherently problematic. Despite our trade deficits, U.S. economic growth has outperformed that of major trading partners and the unemployment rate remains low, they assert. Moreover, they highlight that the diminishing share of U.S. employment in manufacturing is a global trend driven by productivity growth, rather than solely attributable to the strength of the dollar. Critics of the accord also point out the impracticalities of its implementation. Sustaining a weaker dollar would necessitate a delicate balance of interest rate adjustments by the Federal Reserve and foreign central banks, a scenario made even more complex by persistent inflationary pressures in the U.S. and stagnant growth abroad. Furthermore, the potential backlash from foreign governments, especially those resistant to U.S. coercive tactics, could provoke greater economic tensions rather than collaboration. The ramifications of pushing the Mar-a-Lago Accord could be dire, potentially triggering a global financial crisis. The authors warn that undermining the perceived safety and liquidity of U.S. Treasury bonds, considered the bedrock of the global financial system, could lead to a catastrophic loss of confidence akin to past economic disasters. In conclusion, as the discourse surrounding the Mar-a-Lago Accord evolves, It underscores a critical juncture in U.S. economic policy. Instead of pursuing a controversial and risky initiative that could destabilize the global economy, experts suggest a more prudent approach, focusing on fiscal responsibility through spending cuts and tax reforms to address the underlying economic challenges. As the world watches, the future of U.S. monetary policy remains uncertain, but what is clear is the need for a strategy that prioritizes stability and sustainable growth over short-term gains. The next few years will be pivotal in determining how the U.S. navigates these complex economic waters. The winds of discontent are blowing across North America and Europe, fueled by a growing movement to boycott American goods as backlash against the Trump administration intensifies. From Canada to Scandinavia, consumers are voicing their displeasure with U.S. policies, particularly its trade tariffs and perceived authoritarianism under President Trump. High-profile figures, including the renowned German violinist Christian Tetzlaff, are opting out of engagements in the U.S., citing a moral imperative to take a stand against the current political climate. There seems to be a quietness or denial about what's going on, Tetzlaff expressed, articulating a sentiment that resonates widely among those disenchanted by the perceived erosion of democratic values in the U.S. The boycott movement has manifested itself most prominently in Canada, where public sentiment has led to a decline in purchases of U.S. products. Statistics Canada reported a 23% drop in Canadians taking road trips to the U.S. compared to the previous year, marking a significant shift in consumer behavior. Apps designed to help shoppers identify and avoid American goods, such as Buy Beaver and Is This Canadian, have surged in popularity, showcasing a grassroots effort to promote local products over imports. This growing consumer sentiment has had tangible effects on businesses, with Tesla experiencing a notable decline in sales, wiping out 15% of its stock value in a single day. The cultural ramifications of this movement extend beyond just consumer products. In Sweden, a Facebook group advocating for a boycott of U.S. companies has garnered over 70,000 members, while Denmark's largest grocery chain is planning to label European-made goods with a black star, making it easier for consumers to choose alternatives to U.S. products. "I'll replace as many American goods as I can," one group member stated, expressing a desire to impact the supply chain directly. The sentiment echoes across Europe, where anger over U.S. foreign policy and trade practices has galvanized public opinion against American brands. Norway's Haltback, a major oil bunkering operation, has even taken the drastic step of cutting ties with the U.S. Navy, citing a distaste for the current administration's foreign policy decisions. "We have decided to stop as fuel provider to American forces in Norway. We encourage all Norwegians and Europeans to follow our example," the company announced, indicating that the boycott is not limited to consumer goods but is expanding into corporate policies as well. Trump has taken to social media to address the fallout, lamenting the impact on American companies like Tesla and framing the boycott as a result of leftist collusion against patriotic businesses. However, experts suggest that this backlash was anticipated. Takeshi Nainami, CEO of Suntory Holdings, predicted that international consumers would shy away from American brands in the face of trade wars and political turmoil. "We laid out the strategic and budget plan for 2025 expecting that American products will be less accepted," he noted, highlighting the potential long-term effects on brand perception and sales. The boycott movement reflects a significant shift in consumer attitudes and the power of collective action in response to political grievances. As Zoe Gardner from the Stop Trump Coalition in the UK points out, a lot of what we are seeing is coming about organically, people putting stuff on TikTok. People are so furious, and this is about taking back power. As this movement gains traction, its implications for American brands and international relations remain to be seen. The increasing boycotts of U.S. goods could alter the landscape of global trade, prompting companies to reassess their strategies in foreign markets. With the political climate remaining volatile and consumer sentiment rapidly evolving, businesses may need to adapt swiftly to these changes or risk losing their foothold in international markets. The coming months will be crucial in determining the sustainability of this boycott movement and its broader implications for U.S. foreign policy and trade relations. In the rugged terrain of Utah's Book Cliffs, the anticipation of a hunting expedition brings both excitement and trepidation. A.J. Rogers, a seasoned outdoorsman, chronicles his wife Polka's quest for a bull elk in the third installment of Polka's Big Hunt, a series that vividly captures the essence of hunting culture and the challenges it presents. As they set off from their home in Thompson Springs, the couple is not just on a mission for game, they are partaking in a deeply rooted tradition that connects them to nature and to each other. The journey begins on October 2nd. With the couple navigating the dry and dusty expanse of the East Tavaputs Plateau. This year, however, the effects of prolonged drought are palpable. Most ponds in the region essential for wildlife are dry or barely holding water. Rogers laments the impact of this scarcity on both the ecosystem and their hunting prospects, stating, "We felt bad for us and the dust clouds that trailed us everywhere, but we felt even worse for all the animals that depended on the waterholes." This environmental backdrop sets the stage for an expedition that is as much about stewardship as it is about sport. As they arrive at their campsite, the couple prepares for the opening of the Wapiti hunt on October 5th. Polka, armed with a new rifle and a determination to make an ethical shot, is eager yet anxious. Rogers expresses pride in her preparation, noting, "She wanted to be able to hold her head high every time she prepared elk for supper or breakfast over the next many months." This sentiment reflects a broader ethos in the hunting community where respect for the animal and the environment is paramount. On the morning of the hunt, Polka embarks on her solitary journey to a carefully chosen blind near a watering hole. The anticipation builds as she waits, binoculars in hand, for any sign of elk. Despite her efforts, the elusive animals seem to have vanished, likely retreating to the cooler, more secluded canyons where water is more reliably found. "We figured the elk in that area must have traveled a mile or two down into the steep, brush-choked canyons," Rogers observes, highlighting the unpredictability of wildlife behavior in response to environmental pressures. This narrative not only captures the thrill of the hunt but also underscores the challenges posed by climate change in hunting regions. The absence of water has significant implications not only for game populations but also for the overall health of the ecosystem. As Rogers reflects on the state of the land, he articulates a concern that resonates with many outdoor enthusiasts. The rain and snow have to do their part, but they have not done so way too many times over the past 25 years or so. As the hunt unfolds without the hope for elk, Polka's experience serves as a reminder of the complexities surrounding hunting. It is a blend of skill, preparation, and sometimes sheer luck. Even without a successful hunt, the couple's dedication to the process speaks volumes about their love for the outdoors and the traditions they cherish. Looking ahead, the future of hunting in regions like the Book Cliffs may be uncertain due to climate variability. As environmental conditions continue to shift, hunters and conservationists alike will need to adapt. The lessons learned from trips like Polka's Big Hunt may not only influence personal experiences but also shape broader discussions about wildlife management and conservation efforts in the face of an ever-changing climate.